The singularity loomed before them, a perfect void against the backdrop of a shattered nebula. The Black Titan, as it was called, had devoured entire star systems over the millennia. It was an apex predator of the cosmos, a pit where even light met its end. And today, for the first time in the history of the universe, it would kneel. Commander Aiden Voss stood at the heart of the ISS Peregrine, humanity's most advanced research vessel, its engines whispering against the fabric of space-time itself. Around him, 100 minds worked in harmony, their hands guiding instruments that could bend reality as easily as a child folds paper. The Aegis Drive, a theoretical impossibility turned reality, hummed with anticipation. "We're at the threshold," Dr. Lynn Cater said, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "Final calculations confirm. The drive is fully synchronized." Aiden exhaled. Centuries of theory, decades of engineering, and now, in mere minutes, humanity would turn the greatest predator of the universe into its servant. It had taken 1,000 generations to conquer fire, 1,000 more to split the atom. But this was the leap that would make them gods. "Activate the anchors," Aiden commanded. All across the Peregrine, a series of gravitic pylons, forged in the crucible of neutron star matter, flared to life. They reached out like invisible chains, latching onto the very fabric of the Black Titan's gravitational well. The ship trembled, the void itself resisting, as if the universe recoiled at what was happening. "We've got a feedback surge," Lynn called out. "Compensating." The ship groaned. Every alarm screamed, but the Aegis Drive held. On the main display, the event horizon rippled, as if reality itself had flinched. The impossible was happening. Aiden tightened his grip on the rail. "Increase the field integrity. Push it harder." The anchors dug in deeper. Space-time bent, twisted. Then, an explosion of silence. The Peregrine stilled. For the first time in the history of the cosmos, a black hole had been leashed. The event horizon, once a perfect sphere of consuming darkness, had changed. It was no longer a merciless abyss, but a controlled singularity, its shape subtly deformed by humanity's will. The Black Titan was no longer a devourer. It was a tool, a power source, a weapon. Aiden looked at the display, at the undeniable proof of what they had done. He imagined what would come next. Entire planets powered by captured singularities, ships riding the folds of reality, weapons that could end empires in the blink of an eye. "We just rewrote the laws of nature," Lynn whispered. Aiden grinned. "No, we just proved they were never laws to begin with." Beyond the ship, the Black Titan, once an untamed beast, bowed to its new masters. The shock of success rippled through the Peregrine's crew, but Aiden Voss knew better than to celebrate too soon. They had done the impossible, yes, but the universe had a nasty habit of punishing hubris. "Stabilization report," he ordered, voice sharp. Lynn Cater's hands moved over the hollow interface, eyes scanning streams of quantum readings. Singularity remains contained. The Aegis Drive is holding at 93% efficiency, and the gravitic pylons are maintaining structure. We really did it." A murmur of disbelief and awe spread across the bridge. Some of these people had spent their entire lives working toward this moment, taming a black hole, binding a fundamental force of the universe to human will. No civilization had ever dared such a thing. Not the extinct Kvari, who had cracked neutron star mining before they were wiped out. Not the ancient Veldrani, who had ruled for 1,000,000 years before vanishing into dust. This was humanity's achievement alone. Aiden allowed himself a breath. "Then let's not waste time. Begin Phase 2. Dr. Cater hesitated, glancing at him. "Sir, do we really want to push it this far this quickly?" Aiden met her gaze. "The second we turn this thing into an engine, we put a target on our backs. Every species in the galaxy is watching. Some of them will want what we have. Some will want to destroy us for it. We don't have the luxury of caution anymore." Lynn exhaled but nodded. Beginning gravitic oscillation test. Deep in the belly of the Peregrine, the Aegis Drive shifted modes. Instead of merely containing the singularity, it manipulated it. Slowly, the event horizon distorted further, warping in ways that should have been impossible. Space itself began to tilt, a sensation so profound that even inside the shielded ship, the crew felt it. And then, reality lurched. Space-time variance detected, called ensign Doka from the NAV station. We're seeing microfluctuations in the surrounding quantum field. Oh, hell! A ripple spread outward from the Black Titan, distorting light itself. The nearby nebula twisted, bent as if being pulled into an unseen current. Lynn's face paled. That's not just an energy release. That's a localized causality shift. Aiden's stomach clenched. Are you saying, we just punched a hole in time? She whispered. The bridge fell silent. Then the alarm screamed, reading a massive gravitational spike. Something's coming through, shouted Doka. Aiden turned sharply to the main display. Beyond the Peregrine, space itself cracked, a jagged wound in the void. From its depths, something emerged, something that should not have existed. It was a ship. No, something older than a ship. Something ancient. Its hull was dark, layered in shifting metallic plates that seemed to rewrite themselves as they moved. It carried no insignia, no markings, yet every instinct in Aiden's body screamed a single truth. It had seen this technology before, and it was coming to take it back. Aiden's breath turned to ice in his chest. Across the Peregrine, stunned silence filled the bridge as the thing pulled itself from the space-time wound. It was massive, larger than any vessel humanity had ever encountered, its shifting hull glinting like obsidian, absorbing the nebula's faint light. It didn't move so much as it unfolded, its geometry warping in ways that made the mind ache. That ship is older than the stars, Lynn murmured, voice barely above a whisper. Aiden forced himself to move. Doka, full spectral analysis. I want to know what the hell we're looking at. The ensign's fingers flew across the controls, her expression tight with fear. Sir, I don't even know how to describe this. It's not normal matter. Readings are shifting every nanosecond, as if it's phasing between. The ship turned toward them and spoke, not with words, not with sound, but with pressure, a gravitational force that pushed into their minds, bypassing language, bypassing thought. It wasn't a message. It was a verdict. You have stolen from us. The Peregrine groaned. Every light flickered. Every console dimmed as the ship's systems bent under the sheer presence of the entity before them. The Aegis drive, their masterpiece, their triumph, shuddered as the very fabric of its containment field strained. Lynn clutched her temples, gasping. It's ancient, pre-stellar. This thing it's older than the Milky Way. Aiden's fingers curled into a fist. Can we fight it? Silence. Doka swallowed. Sir, the Black Titan's singularity is destabilizing. On screen, the black hole they had tamed, or thought they had, began to shift, its event horizon trembling like a wild beast sensing a predator. Aiden realized with cold horror that the Black Titan was afraid. The entity spoke again, its presence crushing, absolute. You are not ready. And then, impossibly, it reached into the singularity. The Peregrine lurched as their tether to the black hole snapped. The ship screamed in protest, gravity waves slamming against its hull. Aiden grabbed the railing, his breath stolen as the entity's dark, writhing appendages, if they could be called that, plunged into the event horizon, and pulled something out. A shadow, a shape, something that should have been obliterated by the singularity, something that should not exist outside the pit of infinite gravity. It was a vessel, or what remained of one. The hull was shattered, fused into nightmarish spirals, its architecture wrong, as if 1,000 different civilizations had tried to repair it over eons, failing every time. Aiden could barely comprehend its scale. It was larger than planets. And then the pieces fell into place. Lynn gasped, her face pale. My God, that's another Aegis drive. Aiden's blood ran cold. They hadn't been the first to tame a black hole. And judging by the ruin before them, no one who had tried had survived. The entity released its grip, letting the wreck drift in the abyss. The force in their minds grew sharper, heavier. Leave, or you will join them. Aiden gritted his teeth. He had stared into the abyss before. This time, the abyss had stared back, and it was warning them. Aiden's pulse thundered in his ears. The shattered wreck before them, The remains of a vessel that had once wielded their technology floated like a corpse in the abyss. The Peregrine's bridge was silent, every officer paralyzed, every breath held. This wasn't just a warning. It was a grave marker, and the entity that placed it was giving them one chance to turn back. Aiden exhaled slowly. He wasn't a fool. He knew when to retreat. But some part of him, the human part, recoiled at the idea of bowing. Humanity had always risen against the impossible. They had survived ice ages, broken the chains of gravity, clawed their way across the stars. The thought of slinking away like frightened animals gnawed at his soul. And yet he wasn't about to gamble with the Peregrine's crew against something that bent time and reality as if they were mere suggestions. "Lynn," he said, his voice low, "is the Aegis drive still operational?" Lynn hesitated, checking the readings. "Yes, but barely. We lost the singularity, and the gravitic stress nearly fried the pylons. If we push it too hard again, we might not survive." Aiden nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we're leaving." Doka let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The rest of the bridge crew exchanged glances, some relieved, others shaken. "Nav, plot a course away from this system," Aiden ordered. "I don't care where. Just get us far from that thing." The Peregrine's engines roared to life. Thrusters fired, adjusting their trajectory. But before they could accelerate, the entity moved. Not physically, not in any way that could be measured. But suddenly, it was closer, its impossible form blotting out the stars, a presence that shouldn't have been able to exist in normal space. The pressure in their skulls returned, sharper this time. "Do not return." The bridge lights dimmed. The ship shuddered. The entity wasn't just speaking, it was rewriting reality around them. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. One moment, it had dominated their sensors, its gravitational force bending light itself. The next, the Black Titan's gravity well was empty once more, as if the entity had never been there at all. Only the ruined husk of the ancient Aegis vessel remained, silent, watching. Aiden let out a slow breath. "Punch it." The Peregrine surged forward, its engines propelling them into the void. No one spoke as they put distance between themselves and the abyss. The silence was heavier than any black hole. Lynn finally broke it. "Sir, what the hell did we just find?" Aiden didn't answer, because the truth was clawing at the edges of his mind. They had assumed they were the first, that humanity, reckless and brilliant, had done the impossible, tamed the untamable. But someone else had come before them, someone older, someone powerful, and they had failed. The wreckage proved it, and the entity's warning. Aiden clenched his fists. The warning meant something far worse. It meant that whatever had destroyed them was still out there. The Peregrine hurtled through space, engines roaring against the silence of the void. The crew sat stiff and silent, as if afraid that speaking might call the entity back. Aiden kept his eyes on the forward display, watching the wreckage of the ancient ship shrink behind them, lost once more in the abyss. He forced himself to breathe. They had made it out. They were alive. But survival wasn't victory, it was merely postponement. Lynn exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples as if trying to scrub away the weight of what they had just encountered. "What do we do now?" Aiden's fingers curled against the console. They had a choice. They could wipe this mission from the records, bury the data, pretend none of this ever happened. But that wasn't who they were. That wasn't what humanity did. "We finished the job," he said. Lynn stared at him, disbelief flashing across her face. "Aiden, that thing, it warned us. Told us to never come back." "I know." His voice was steady, unwavering. "And that's exactly why we have to." Lynn opened her mouth, then shut it. Around them, the crew exchanged uncertain glances. Aiden gestured at the display, at the drifting corpse of the long-dead Aegis vessel. "That wasn't just a warning. That was a lesson. Someone else tried this before us. They failed. But that wreck is proof that the technology exists, somewhere. We aren't the first to reach this point. And if that thing was guarding it, that means there's something it doesn't want us to find." Doka hesitated. "Sir, what if it's not guarding knowledge? What if it's guarding something worse?" Aiden thought of the entity's final words. "Do not return." A warning, but also a challenge. He turned back to his crew. There's an equation we haven't solved yet. A power we still don't understand. We tried to bend a black hole to our will, and in doing so, we woke something up. But here's the thing. We are human. And when the unknown tells us to run, we chase it. When the universe tries to keep its secrets, we take them. He stood tall, his voice carrying the weight of conviction. We go back. Not now, not tomorrow, but one day, we will return. And this time, we'll be ready. The crew sat in silence. Then, one by one, they nodded. Lynn sighed, shaking her head with a wry smile. You're going to get us all killed one day. You know that? Aiden grinned. Not today. The peregrine vanished into the dark, leaving behind only the ghost of what had come before. For now,